Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 50. Where on this episode, I am going to be answering a question as to why I'm no longer involved in the music business. Yes, I received a message that said, Chad, I've seen one of your videos singing, which I did recently post. And this person also listened to an interview that I did a while ago in which I talked about how my biggest passion in the world is actually not filmmaking, it is playing and performing music, which is absolutely true. So the question was, why don't you work in the music business anymore? And it's a very good question, and the story with it that I'm going to tell you is going to blow your mind, but it is the reason why I made the choice to walk away from the music business after working in it for over a decade. What a lot of you may or may not know is that my manager is Kurt Smith, the singer for the band Tears for Fears. And I met Kurt years ago when I was 18 years old and I was in my band 35 Inch Mutter. To make a very long and detailed story short, Kurt had come across our website and just fell in love with our band. And through him, I was able to showcase and tour and meet a bunch of people in the music business, in which through those friendships, I later became a band manager in which I co-managed bands with Kurt. Not a lot, just a handful. But the first band that I chose to kind of throw my wings around was Joe Ansley's Index Case. As many of you know, and some of you may not know, Joe is an incredibly talented singer and frontman, and of all the things that I've done in my life from a business standpoint, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that when I selected that band to work with, Index Case did not even have a bass player. They had played a handful of live shows. They had less than 10 songs written. They were very much what you would call a baby band, meaning they were just starting out. But I believed in Josh, their guitar player. I thought he was the modern day equivalent of an unknown Eddie Van Halen. I still think he is just mind-blowingly good. And I thought Joe was just something truly special. And I took them all the way from the garage to signing one of the last major multi-million-dollar record deals before MP3 burning destroyed the industry, in which the band moved out to California. By the way, we got them signed to Elektra Records, and Elektra put them up at a $5 million mansion on top of a mountain in Calabasas. They moved in a $3 million studio, and for 6 months, the band got to live out here and just work on their album every single day. And they made a great album with the legendary rock producer James Jimbo Barton. And right when the album was done, Index Case was confirmed for Ozfest. We had all these plans. It was all happening. It was a truly magical time. It was a truly magical time where I felt like the good guys got one, man. You know, we really did it. And then a series of incredibly unfortunate events took place. The head of our subsidiary, because we were on No Name Elektra, which is the same record label that broke Slipknot, Hatebreed, Motograter, all these huge bands in the metal arena. Unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately because I genuinely liked him, a guy named Steve, he goes by the name Rocker, who's the head of the label, he passed away due to brain cancer. And it happened fast. And once he passed away, there was nobody there to be a cheerleader, per se, for Index Case. There was no one there to run No Name Records because that was Rocker's baby that he built from the ground up. There was just nobody there to push Index Case to Elektra Records and to let them know they should keep supporting them and keep spending the money to get them on these big tours. And eventually, despite the fact that Elektra Records had spent millions of dollars creating this album, they dropped Index Case before the album ever came out. As you can imagine, This was gut-wrenching. Just so much work went into getting there. And if you're Index Case, I mean, imagine being from a town of 600 people, and not only do you overcome the 1 in a million odds of getting signed, but you sign one of the last multi-million-dollar record deals, pre-MP3 burning era. They made this mind-blowing album. They were confirmed for Ozfest. And 90 days later, after the head of their record label passes away, 90 days later, they are dropped by Elektra. So when it was all over, I said, listen, I know this hurts, and it sucks, and it hurts for me too, but we made it all the way here from nothing. We have a completed album, okay? We have a touring history. I had them sponsored by Mountain Dew before they were ever signed. We had so many things in our favor. We had thousands and thousands of independent records sold. I said, drown your sorrows, mope and whine for about a day, and then get your game face on, because we need to figure out how we get back to where we're at right now. And we can do it. But I need you guys, to get a mean on and say, let's do this. And I could see in their eyes the pep talk wasn't really working. They were hurt. They were really hurt. So they went home, and I went to work. The first step was to just make sure that we were free and clear of Elektra, and that we could, without question, just go sign with somebody else. And that's exactly what we did. Kurt and I went to work. We got the band clear. And I knew the best thing for the band at that time was just to get them on the road. Just get their mind off of all the business. Just get them out there and get them playing. So right away, I got them on tour with some good friends of mine, the band Mushroom Head, which they did about 3 weeks with them. And then they had the chance to hop on tour with this band named Soil. Now again, the goal was to keep them on the road while we tried to work out a situation to get them a comparable record deal. But while on the road, Index Case had become friends with Tim King, who was the bass player for Soil. Tim had his own record label where he and a financial partner, who I'll just call John, because I don't want this guy to get any more press than he deserves, they had a record company called Mortal Records that was distributed by a larger entity called the Platform Group / Universal. So they were an indie distributed by a major. Well, while on tour with Index Case, this Tim King gentleman decides that he wants to sign Index Case, and I get a phone call from Joe basically saying, you're not going to believe it, but we have a record deal coming. And I'm like, you just went on tour, and this bass player for the band Soil, who is signed to an independent, by the way, is going to offer you a record deal with a major. My first thought was, well, why aren't they putting their own band on their major record label if this Tim King does in fact run this entity? Having said that, I told Joe, well, tell him to call me and, send over their offer, I guess. And a few days later, I get this 2-page offer. A 2-page record deal. Now remember, most record deals are 200 pages. It just takes forever. I mean, the fine print is endless on these things. But this was a 2-page deal that was just like meat and potatoes. We'll give you X amount of dollars to turn in an album on this date. We'll press this many, records. We'll shoot one music video. It was just so thin. I was like, okay, I need to talk to this guy. Like, what is going on? So I initially talked to Tim King without his partner, John. And Tim explains that he actually has 2 partners. That John, like I said, is just his financial partner. He puts up money through Mortal Records, which is their subsidiary. And that their distributor is actually headed up by a guy named Jack Ponte, who works at the Platform Group, which is in partnership with Universal. Now, don't worry about all of these ins and outs in different companies. What you need to know is there's a really tiny, tiny entity with a little bit of money that has worked some sort of deal for distribution through Universal Records. So technically speaking, it's a major deal. It's signing with a major, technically. So I talked to Tim, and he's a nice enough guy. He really does believe in Index Case, and I could tell that. He's super excited about the band, and he thinks that they can do really good things. And that part of it was fine. I had not spoken to his financial partner, and I had not spoken to this Jack Ponte yet. But I had spoken, like I said, to Tim. But even after speaking with him, I just wasn't convinced at all that these guys could break Index Case, that they could really get behind them and make it happen. At the very best, I felt like Index Case could work really hard, break themselves, and then these guys are just going to take all the money and they're not going to put anything back into the band. That's what I honestly felt. And I told Index Case this. I told them exactly how I felt. I don't think we should sign this. This is such a weird scenario. I don't think they have what it takes to make this work. And, I think it's a bad deal. Index Case wanted to sign it. And let me say this. I understand as young men at that time, this was, 10 years ago, they were all in their, early 20s, and, they just wanted it back. They wanted that deal back. They wanted that feeling back. I mean, I understand all that, but that was all emotions, and I tried to explain that too. I said, this is an emotional decision you're making. You're not making a sound business decision here, because remember, I'm a manager. It's not my decision. It's theirs. It's my job to advise them. And they went against my advice. So at that point, as a manager, I could choose to either walk away, or I can try to do my best to protect my boys and steer it in the right direction, which I chose to try to protect Joey and the guys and steer it in the right direction. So the first sign that this thing was a bad deal is the contract that we signed. The one thing that was good about it is contractually, the band had complete creative say over the music videos, like the album artwork, everything. They had complete creative control. Well, we get to the first music video for the first single, which, by the way, the first single was a war. And at this point, again, I've only spoken with Tim King. I've not spoken with the financial guy, and I've not spoken with this Jack Ponte. So the band chooses the song they want to be the single. It's a war with Tim King. He doesn't like the song. He doesn't think it's the right song. He doesn't get the band's image. But contractually, he has to go with what they say. So we go through these shouting matches, and we finally agree it's going to be the song. And then it comes down to shooting the music video. And this guy calls me up, and his budget for the music video, the initial budget, was $500. Let me say that again. The budget that he wanted to spend on the music video was $500. And I'm going, what are you talking about? And then he doesn't want me to direct it because he says I'm just too close to the subject matter, which is ridiculous. Every music video they had done to that point that got them to where they were going, every single thing that they had done, I had directed. When they were on Elektra, we shot a promo video for Ozfest, and Elektra hired me in 2 seconds. They were like, yeah, this guy's, the guy. And, the reason that they wanted his own guy to do it, that he had, is because this sounds crazy, but I guarantee he had somebody that would do it for less than $500. I mean, they were literally just scratching pennies, and that was just scary to me. I was just going, man, these guys just have no money. They're lying about what they have, or they just don't want to spend anything. But eventually, we got them up to a whopping $2,500, and we turned in this music video that, again, they hated. Creatively, it was terrible. And these shouting matches are starting to get really bad on the phone between me and Tim. I mean, it's going past the point of professionalism. This guy's just being a dick. And I am just doing everything I can to try to maintain civility with Tim. And it's getting harder and harder. Okay? It's getting harder and harder and harder. So after we get the album and the single and the music video done, it comes time to release the album. And we decide that the best way to do it would be to have a show in Des Moines, Iowa, a homecoming show. You know, the band hadn't played a show there, in probably over a year between all these different record deals and touring. So we decided we're going to set up this show there, and we're discussing how many records that we should release and where we should put them, in what stores, and, in Des Moines, Iowa. And we're discussing the CD counts that the band has sold in the past. And I disagree with them. I think the numbers that they want to put into Des Moines, Iowa are very low. I wanted at least 5,000 albums in Des Moines because we had easily sold that in the past. And they wanted to only put, I think, 500. I mean, it was crazy to me. I just didn't understand why everything was so low. So I'm told that I have a conference call with the distributor because the distributor, which is Jack Ponte, they put up the money to actually press the albums. Now, I had heard this name, Jack Ponte, before. Jack has made his whole career off being John Bon Jovi's buddy. That very, very early on, like in Bon Jovi's first 2 albums, he was a co-songwriter with John. And after the second album of Bon Jovi, like, John never worked with him or, wrote a song with him again. But he was around early on, and he has some songwriting credits, in which he obviously made a lot of money off those early songs that he wrote. But the reason I've heard of him is because I've heard that he might be the biggest dick in the history of the music business. So that's his reputation. And I'm just, waiting to have this conversation, knowing that it's probably going to get pretty nasty. I had no idea what was to come. This guy hops on the phone, and I didn't even get, "How you doing, Jack? I'm Chad." I mean, he just hops on the phone, and every name you could possibly call me, and I'm not, guys, I'm not over exaggerating. Like, it was the most insulting conversation I've ever had, which after about 5 minutes of it, I just hung up. I couldn't do it. I'm like, I want to be the bridge for the band, and I want to work this out, and I want to do all this. But there's a limit to how much shit I'm going to take from anybody because, I want albums in our hometown and stores. So I call Joey, and I just go, listen, dude, I don't know that I could do this. This is just so far outside the guidelines of what should be going on in a normal business conversation. So, eventually Kurt gets involved. He hops on the phone, and, Jack is a little more subdued because Kurt is on the phone, but he's still just being the biggest dick in the world, in which, we finally just decide we're just not going to talk to this guy. If he's going to act this way, we're just not going to speak to him. And, he's going to put whatever albums he puts in the stores, and, if they're not available to be sold, then that's on him, and he'll have to stock them when the desire of the public overrides the available copies. And so we go ahead and schedule this hometown show. And it is the release party for Index Case's nationwide debut album. I get a call that Tim King and John, the financial partner, are coming to the show. Our record label is actually going to attend Index Case's hometown CD release show, which is great. That's what you want to see happen. You want them to come out and support the band. So the day of the show comes, and Tim King and his partner John show up. And this John's a big dude, bigger than me. I mean, like way bigger than me. He's just a mountain of a man. And like I said, I had never met him. I had never spoke to him. And he's got this long burly hair, and he just looks like this mountain man. And he shows up right away, and he's like, "I'm John. I'm the money around here," and like all this stuff. And I'm like, God, what does this guy do for a living? Like, I can't, I can't figure this out. Like, not that rich people look a certain way, but he just didn't have anything about him that would say, he's got a lot of money. But, fairly nice enough guy in the beginning, pretty egotistical. He kept saying things like, "So where's my band at? Where are they?" Kind of like, he owns them type of thing. And I'm, making the best out of it, So I run and grab the guys, and again, they know Tim from touring with him, and they're friends with him. So, they see Tim and like, "What's up?" And they meet John as well, and John's going, "Really excited, guys, really excited for the night." And, he's trying to kind of push out there that, he's a part of this. He's the money. He's the reason we're all here. And I figured part of that was just kind of, he wants to be respected for, his role. And I understand that. I'm not dogging him for that. But I could see early on that that's kind of it's something he wants to drive home, So I talk to the guys and I say, "Listen, at some point in the night, just thank John. Just say, hey, I know you put some money up for the album and the music video and everything, and we really appreciate your support." I said, he goes a long way, especially with me having to work with these guys every day for you guys. So at some point, just say thanks, which each of the guys do throughout the night. Well, before the actual show goes on, there's like 5 bands that are opening up for Index Case, and we have a backstage area set up with hospitalities and snacks and drinks and all this stuff. And, everybody's hanging out back there. Kurt is there as well, by the way, because this is a big night for Index Case. This is, finally their album is going to be out nationwide. Well, in the backstage setup, we had some beer back there, but we didn't have a ton of alcohol because Index Case definitely doesn't perform drunk or high or anything like that. So it was more for our guests, if people wanted a beer or something like that. But I noticed that this John guy is doing shots. And I noticed he's doing a lot of them. And I'm kind of already seeing where this is going. I'm just like, man, this guy's going to get hammered. And God, he's going to be loud. I just hope he's not a problem, And it's still a good 2 hours before Index Case is supposed to go on. So as we're getting closer and closer for showtime, I finally just grab the band and I take them into the warm-up room, which is where they actually physically get ready to play. And I go back in, I'm hanging out with Tim and this John. And John is really drunk. And he keeps, wanting to talk to me about, what he did, for me and the band, and just, he's looking for us to kick some ass tonight. And he really wants to see, he wants to see his investment do well. And again, I'm being cool with it. I could tell he's drunk, and I'm just like, yeah, well, they're going to do what they always do, man. They kill it live. They're a great band. And he's just going, no, I need to see my money work for me. And just starting to cross that line into really weird, just not things you say before a band goes on stage, And through his drunken stupor, he reveals to me that he got his money by mortgaging his house and some property that was left to him. And I'm sitting here going, whoa. So Tim got him to do this? Well, he and Tim have been friends their whole life, I learn. And yeah, he basically tells me that he mortgaged, his house and his property to get the cash to start this record label, which his decision, but it just kind of reconfirmed my thoughts that this was not a man with a ton of expendable income, So, yeah, things are starting to kind of like make sense to me, but I'm still just getting nervous as can be. About that time, Justin shows up. Now, remember, at this point, Justin has never met Tim King, has no idea who John is. So it comes time for the show, and Index Case takes the stage. Sold out night, 700 attendees that are there. I go on and introduce the band, which was a lot of fun. It was awesome. And I leave the stage from the back, and Index Case just starts killing it. I mean, just killing it. They were so good that night. And John is right behind the stage, and he's just rocking out, and I'm starting to think, okay, this is going to go smooth. Dude's in rock mode. He's enjoying it. He's headbanging. Like, okay, this is going to be cool. Let's just get this show over with, and let's get Index Case home. Let's get these guys on a plane and call it a night, And I go and get a glass of water. I don't drink. I'm definitely not drunk. I'm not, high. I don't smoke weed. I don't anything. I'm sober as can be. And I come back and I look up, and John has walked up the back stairs, and he's standing on the stage watching Jordan, the drummer, drum, and he's yelling things at him. But not like bad things. He's just yelling like, "You go, boy! You beat those fucking drums," and all this stuff. But things that are totally inappropriate. Like, that stage is theirs. Like, what are you doing standing on stage yelling at the drummer? And, Joey looks back over at me like, dude, get this fucking guy off the stage. So I go up on the stage, and I grab John by his arm, and I pull him over to me, and I say, "Hey, come here, man." And we walk down the stairs, and I go, "Hey, dude, it's totally cool that you're into the band, but, the policy is just nobody on stage. Like, that's their stage, man." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just no one on stage. Like, that's their place. They're doing their thing, bro. Look, they're doing awesome, man. They're killing it, we just don't want anything to distract from the band, And he's going, "You understand? This is my fucking band. They wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for me." And I'm going, "Dude, listen, calm down. I'm with you. We're both on the same team, dude, okay? We love this band. They're doing great. I need you to stay down here." And he looks away, just pissy as can be. Just shakes his head, he's like, "Whatever." And he just walks away from me, walks over, grabs his bottle, pours himself another shot, and chugs it. And I'm like, great, that's all we need is more alcohol to this situation. So he's standing over talking to Tim, and I could see that he's bitching to Tim about me. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go chill with Kurt. So he's been seeing all of this go down as well. And I tell Kurt, I'm like, man, there's going to be, there's going to be a problem here unless we can get the show over and just get these guys out of here. Because if anybody in Index Case hears him say, "I own that fucking band," or anything like that, that ain't going to be good. And Kurt's like, "Well, I agree." And I said, I got to keep him off the stage. And Kurt's like, "No, you definitely got to keep him off the stage." I'm like, okay, Jesus. So I'm chilling. He's not going up on the stage. I'm thinking, maybe this will be okay. That time I get a phone call from Laura. I can't hear because the band's playing. So I literally step outside the door for maybe 30 seconds, tell her the show's going on, walk back in the door. John is back up the stairs on the stage, rocking and yelling stuff at the band. Joe looks at me again, and Jordan, the drummer, both like, "Dude, get him off this stage." So I go up again, grab him by the arm, pull him back towards me. I'm like, "Come down here, man." We get you on the stage. I'm like, "Listen, dude, you can't do that. You can't do that, okay? You can't go up on the stage. I can't let you do that. You have to stay down here until the show's over." And he starts in with all his stuff again, "This whole thing wouldn't be fucking going off if it wasn't for me, man. You're unappreciative, and like all this stuff." It's like, okay, listen, say whatever, but you can't go back up on that stage, okay? You can't do that. He walks away again, mad as hell, and he's standing in the corner again, bitching to Tim King, who's not talking to me at all, not doing anything to help the situation, because he's got some girls he's talking to at that time. I look back over at Kurt. Kurt can see where this is going. I'm like, oh, God. So I walk over to Justin, and Justin doesn't know this is John yet. He doesn't even know who this guy is. And Justin says, "What's his problem?" And I had forgot that I had not even told Justin who he is. I never introduced him. And all I said was, this fucking guy, I just cannot keep him off the stage, man. I go, it's driving me absolutely crazy. So for all Justin knows, this is just some dude that's a friend of somebody backstage, and he's drunk and he's going on the stage. So I'm like, all right, well, hopefully he's heard me and he's not going to go back on the stage. So the band's about halfway through their set. I walk over to get another glass of water, turn around, and sure as the day is long, he is back on the stage, in which this time the drummer's dad, Jordan, goes up and grabs him by the arm. Not violently or anything, just kind of like reaches out to like shake his hand and then kind of walks him towards the stairs. And he gets to the bottom of the stairs, and as I'm walking closer, I could see that John is yelling at Jordan's dad, okay? And Jordan's dad is yelling back. He's going, that's my son. Please, please just let him play. Please. And John is screaming like, fuck you, and like all this stuff to Jordan's dad. Now, this is family now, guys. You have to understand this. Like, this guy, John, has crossed into family zone, all right? So I'm like, oh my God, you know, please do not let this go anywhere further because it's going to get bad. And as I'm walking towards them, John, like, buffs up his chest and, like, rams his chest into Jordan's dad like he's going to fight him. And Jordan's dad's a small guy and John is huge. And I'm like, that's it, dude. You touched him. And I'm thinking, as you guys know, I hate violence, but it's like, here's the thing, dude. You put hands on family. So I rear back and I am going to hit him with everything I have because he is a big, big dude. And I don't know what to do at this point other than to just try to knock this guy the fuck out. I don't know what else to do because this is clearly not going to stop. So I take a little crow's hop and hop back, and before I could even get a punch off, I just see this flash. And John goes fire into the ground, and I look, and it's Justin. Justin just hit him so hard. I mean, I've not seen a man in my lifetime hit as hard as Justin hit him. And he falls on the ground, and Justin jumps on top of him and just starts beating the holy living hell out of this man. And I am like, okay, I'm going to let Justin get some shots in because this guy's got to stay down. I mean, we can't, he's too big. Like, we can't let him get up. But Justin is going at it hard, and he's showing no signs of letting up. So finally, I walk over, and I'm trying to pull Justin off him, and he won't stop. So I had to, like, literally wrap Justin up and, you know, jerk him off this guy. And I'm like, it's enough. I'm like, dude, it's enough. It's enough. And I look back over, and this John's on the ground, and to be honest, he appears dead. He's just not moving. I can't see that he's breathing, and I am freaking out. I walk Justin over the wall, and I go, dude, don't move. And he's like, what? And I go, dude, do you know who that is? And he's like, and the dude that was jumping on the stage, what? And I'm like, that's Index Case's record label. And he's like, what? And I go, yeah. And he goes, well, dude, he was attacking Jordan's dad. He was bumping up against him like he's going to hit him. I'm like, yeah, no, I know. I go, just don't move. Let me figure this out. So first thing is first, I got to go over and make sure this guy's not dead. So I go over, and his face is just a pumpkin. I mean, it's just so swollen. He's definitely got a broken nose, if not a broken cheekbone. His lips are all cut up, and I reach down, and he has a pulse. I'm like, okay, he's got a pulse. He's just not moving because he got, you know, really messed up. So I'm thinking, okay, what do I do now? I don't want any of our guys going to jail. I want this guy to go to jail. I want him out of here. Plus, Index Case is playing right now. Right about that time, Tim King comes up to me and starts bitching. I turn to Tim, and I'm like, dude, you sat over there the whole night as this guy acted like a retard, got wasted, kept jumping on the stage of the band that you signed, and then he's shoving Jordan's dad. I'm like, and you did nothing. You did nothing because you're hitting on girls, two little girls that are probably 16 years old. I'm like, what? Don't fucking talk to me right now. So I go outside and I think, okay, well, I need to be the one to call the cops because the first story they hear needs to come from me. So I go outside, call the police, tell them, listen, I got a guy that's been drunk and belligerent the entire night. He kept jumping on the stage. Multiple times he was escorted off the stage. And, he pushed, the dad of our drummer. I mean, he assaulted him. And, a friend of mine got into a fight with him. And, this guy's hurt pretty bad, so we need an ambulance. We need to get here right away. So they show up right away. I make sure that I have all my witnesses who are sober. And, we meet the cops outside. And they're like, okay, well, where is this John guy? And I'm like, oh, he's in the same spot. He's inside on the ground behind the stage bleeding. And he's like, well, what are people doing? I'm like, well, they're stepping over him. I mean, he's just in there, And this is just, you have to understand, this is a nightmare situation for me. But I would say this, Justin did what he had to do. And he did what I was fixing to do. And even talking to Kurt's like, listen, there was no other option. I mean, this guy was going to hurt somebody. So the cops come in, look at the entire situation, talk to everybody, take statements from everybody. And this is all going on backstage as the concert is going on for Index Case. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. So the police, talk to the EMTs who arrive. They basically say he's got to go to the hospital. Yes, he's going to be okay, but he's busted up. I mean, he's real busted up. So he's going to have to go to the hospital. I mean, he had some teeth knocked out. I mean, his nose is broken. I mean, he was really messed up. So the police say, okay, but we're going to arrest him when he gets released from the hospital. Which they did. They went down to the hospital. They got this guy all situated, and they arrested him. And they did not arrest Justin. They arrested him for the initial shoving of Jordan's dad. And he eventually, that same night, bails himself out. So right when the band comes off the stage, I'm like, hey, did you guys see what happened backstage? And Joe's going, no. I saw cops and all this stuff. And dude, what was his deal? He kept coming on stage. And so I tell Joe the whole story, and I get the band together, and I tell him the whole story. And I go, guys, I'm just really sorry because this is your label, and we were doing everything we could to maintain this, and I don't know if we have a label anymore, and it's just quiet, and Jordan's sitting there, and he gets up and he walks over to me, and it made me want to cry, man. He goes, dude, fuck a label. That's my dad. And I just gave him a hug, and I'm just like, I didn't know what to do, man. And Joey goes, no, dude, listen. He was like, contract or no contract, you don't come to our hometown, treat us like dirt, tell us you own us, destroy our show, assault our parents, and we're supposed to be cool because we have a contract? He was like, if they want to drop us, they can drop us, man. He was like, I love you for this, dude. Thank you for having our back. That's why you're a manager. And it just made me feel so good that they saw that would have never happened unless it was necessary. That there's a line you draw in the sand. There's a line you draw in the sand. And here comes John walking back into the venue because he bailed himself out of jail, which Tim didn't even go and pick him up. Tim's still there talking to girls and stuff backstage. And this guy comes in, swollen his head. Like I said, he looks like a pumpkin. And he's not saying a word to me. He's not saying a word to anybody. He's mouthing stuff to Tim, but he's keeping his distance. And he's sitting in the backstage room where he's just drinking a water. And Justin is actually starting to feel really bad, because this guy's really messed up. And not that he's going to say he's sorry, but he wants to basically walk in and go, hey, listen, I'm not a violent person, man. I don't even know you. I didn't want things to go down this way, you know. And Justin's basically going to say to him, if you want to be mad at somebody, you know, be mad at me. Like, don't take it out on the band. Don't drop them. Don't, you know, punish them for something I did. And he goes back there, and right when Justin starts trying to talk to him, this dude starts being mouthy again. He's going, so are you the one who did this? You're the one who sucker punched me? The front of this guy's entire face is just smashed. There's no bumps on the back of his head. There was no sucker punch. I mean, and he basically starts going to Justin, what's your name? I know who I sue. What's your name? And all this stuff like that. And I just hear Justin scream, you want to know my name? My name's Justin Holstein. I did this to you. I did it. I'm going, oh my God, this night has to end. So I'm trying to get everybody out of there, in which I finally do. I go back there, I grab Justin, I get the band home. You know, I just tell Tim, listen, dude, we'll talk on Monday. You know, whatever happens, happens. Kurt's saying the same thing. We leave, and then we have this phone call on Monday with this Jack Ponte guy, because he's heard the story as well, with John, with Tim King, and Kurt's going to be on the call too. And it's going to be a determine in next case's future meeting, you know. And I'm sure they're going to drop the band, because how could you not? The most rock and roll thing in the history of rock and roll just happened, which is a band had a CD release party, and their management smashed their record label and sent them to the hospital, which, as far as rock stories go, that's about as rock and roll as it gets. But I'm thinking, of course, we're going to get dropped. If these guys have any kind of sense, clearly this situation doesn't work, and if they're in bed with them and that's where their loyalty is, then we're going to get dropped. So I get on the phone, and this Jack Ponte hops on the phone, and Jack doesn't know that Kurt's on the phone, by the way. And Jack right away just starts going off on me. And again, every name in the book that you can call me, you know, I'm the biggest, you know, effing loser in the world, and like all this stuff. And he's like, and I heard Kurt's there too. You know what? If he'd released his last album on platform, it wouldn't have been such a dud. He has no idea Kurt's like on the phone. And now remember, Kurt is selling out arenas, okay? Like at that time, worldwide, selling out arenas, still relevant today. And the album he is referring to was a killer record that, you know, did massive catalog sales. And a lot of older bands, when you're older like that, new album releases are really to increase catalog sales. So by every stretch of the imagination, Kurt is massively successful. And this guy's saying, had he released his album with me instead of whatever major Kurt was on at that time, then it would have been better, you know. And basically Kurt speaks up and essentially says, you know what the fuck you're talking about. Across the board, you don't. Now remember, this Jack Ponte, keep in mind, Kurt has sold over 30 million records. On this Jack Ponte's record company, the only band that he has on his label that has sold over 1 million records is the band Kitty. And Kitty has sold actually 2 million records, but they've sold 2 million records over the course of 8 releases. Okay? So a guy that literally does not have a platinum artist on a single album release on his label is saying how he would have done such a better job than, you know, Kurt and his major at that time. So basically, Kurt just puts him in his place. And if you want to know who this Jack Ponte is, watch the documentary of Kitty, the band Kitty. Morgan Landers, great female fronted metal band. Love Kitty. I've met Morgan several times. Great girl. But they speak about how working with Jack Ponte was just a fucking nightmare, and they want nothing to ever do with him again. As I said before, hate is a very strong word. It's a very, very strong word. I never want to say I hate someone, but I'm telling you, this Jack Ponte, I'll say this, I hated communicating with him. I hated everything about him, his style, just the way he approached, He was just Mr. Know-It-All. Everything was about, when I was working with John, everything was a reference to John Bon Jovi. Everything was a reference to John Bon Jovi. As if John Bon Jovi is like the god of music, So, throughout this entire conversation, I'm still waiting to hear about the future of Index Case. And basically, this John only speaks up a little bit. And basically, he speaks up to say, I got Pearl Harbored. And I wasn't doing anything, man. All I was doing is having a few beers and telling the band I like it. And he's just lying. He's lying through his teeth. And I just had one of those like out of body experiences where I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this Jack Ponte, who's successful. He does have a label. He does have money. He's successful. And I'm listening to him, and he is a complete ass. That is the most disrespectful dude I've ever met. And then I'm listening to this John guy who's lying. He's just the biggest liar I've ever met. And I just obviously met him in person. And he has this little label. And this guy is saying that he was just having some beers. And he just got, like I said, Pearl Harbored. And I'm just going, this guy's a lying piece of shit like this other dude. And then I'm listening to Tim King, who's telling some total different version of the story, knowing that this guy wasn't even there for his lifelong friend, supposedly. Now he's lying, telling a totally different story. He was basically saying, yeah, well, maybe he got out of hand as far as like alcohol. He was a little drunk, but there was no reason to get physical with him. I mean, you guys just chose to just work him over. I mean, come on, It was kind of like that out-of-body experience where you just kind of step back and you see, and it's like, what am I doing talking to these guys? Why am I even associating with them? I would never do this in my life, so why am I doing it now? And then I just started thinking about the entire music business. Even when we were on Elektra Records, while I got along with Rocker, 99% of the people that I met with were just thieves. We had so much money stolen from us from the record label that we were on. For example, Index Case had a $50,000 budget for equipment. And the contract reads that whatever they don't spend on equipment, they get. So if they spend 30 grand and they're good, they get the other 20. Well, no matter what the band bought, magically, like no matter what it was, it magically totaled $50,000. Like, and what I mean is, like, Jordan bought a drum set that was custom, but he changed it. He initially had a different drum set that was like $6,000. Then he had a custom set that was like $10,000. And Josh had his guitar cabinets and all things that he was buying. But no matter what we changed and swapped, it all magically came out to $50,000. So no matter what, there was, backdoor stuff going on. Same thing like with the deposit to the house that we're on. There was an $8,000 deposit that the band had paid out of their recording budget that they should receive at the end, because the recording budget's the same way. Whatever you don't spend on the budget, you get to keep. And at the end of it, the gal that owns the house is just making up things that aren't real. Saying that there was blood stains on the carpet. No, there wasn't. Saying that, the pool was, dirtied by the guys swimming in it, and they never brought someone out to clean it. The guys never once went swimming in the pool. It was just everywhere I looked, it was just thieves. The music business is the only business in the world that you don't have to have a degree in anything to run anything and do anything. I mean, David Geffen started out by working in the mailroom and forging his resume to shoot up the ladder, and became one of the most successful people ever in the history of the music business, having no, formal education whatsoever to do anything. I mean, even Doc McGee, who managed Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, Skid Row, Kiss, you know what he did before he was a band manager? He was in jail because he was involved with all the cocaine smuggling with Noriega. I mean, the music business is just dirt. It's just filled with dirt people. And very few people have been as fortunate as Kurt Smith, where he got signed at a golden era of the industry. So in his unique situation, it works for him because he was so powerful in such an early time period in the business, he was able to just find the diamonds in the rough. But during the time period that I was managing bands, and specifically in metal music, it was such a different industry. And it just hit me that, man, I just don't want to be in league with criminals. Just liars and thieves. Liars and thieves. And when I got off that phone call, I realized that what I had loved the most in life, music, something that just saved me, saved my life so many times, music. It was becoming something that I couldn't stand because the line between the music business and music was getting so blurred. And I love Index Cases music. And I was starting to associate it with, oh God, another phone call today with Jack fucking Ponte. Another phone call today with Tim King. Another phone call today with a dude that Justin gave a pumpkin head. You know, I just wanted nothing. I wanted nothing to do with any of them. And at the end of the phone call, they did not drop Index Case. They just basically just said, moving forward, what are we doing next? I mean, it was just like, this is crazy. So when that call was over, I talked to Kurt and I talked to Joey, and I basically just said, I can't do this. And I don't mean just this scenario. Like, I can't work in the music business. Everything I've seen in it, with the exception of a few people, it is just the dirtiest, grossest business I've ever been in. And I would not associate myself with any of these people in any capacity in my normal life. So why am I doing it now? It's also just killing my desire to be a musician in general. It's just blurring the line. I can't do it. I love music too much to do this. So I'm going to focus on film. I just found that industry to be so much better than the music business. Now, that doesn't mean that the film business is, void of scumbags. I mean, it's just a different industry, and it takes a different, mindset and a different group of people, and it's team oriented. It really is. And it's just a different industry that I felt I could work in, and I felt I could be successful in. So that's why I walked away from the music business. Now, what happened with Index Case? We got him off the label. Joey agreed. He wanted nothing to do with it. So we called up Tim and basically said, listen, this is not working. The guys don't want to do anything with you. This isn't going to happen. So whoever you got to talk to, we want off the label. And it took about 6 months to basically do it, but we did eventually get the band off the label, free and clear. And it didn't even matter to the label eventually because they didn't sell hardly anything because their distribution was so screwed up. I mean, they only put 500 albums in their hometown. 500 albums, So it wasn't like some big financial winner. They screwed it up. They screwed the whole thing up. It was a joke. It was everything that I warned them against in the beginning. But, it is what it is. We all learned, and they learned a big lesson too. So, but we did. We eventually got the guys free and clear of that deal. And that's when I started focusing on film. But like anything else, I'm glad I went through it. And I'm glad I went through it because it taught me where my line in the sand is. It taught me what I will and won't be a part of. And for that, I am thankful. I am thankful for all those experiences. And I'm incredibly thankful for Kurt standing by me. And I'm incredibly thankful that the guys that night drew their line in the sand and said, yeah, you're not going to come in and hurt our parents and push people around. And, there was a lot to be proud of. We had done a lot. We had done a lot over the course of a decade. We'd done a lot. And today, Index Case is still making independent albums, and they're just doing it on their own time. And when it comes to my own music, I would love to go out there and tour more, and I'm going to do that, coming up and play more live shows. But I just want to keep it in a place where I know that I will always love it, because you only get a few things in life that you love to do. Only a few things, and you got to protect those things. And another thing that I love in life is doing this podcast. So thank you for listening to the 50th episode already, guys. Number 50 of the In a Crowded Room podcast. I will be back tomorrow, my friends, with some more. All the best.